Hi, I'm Brad Gill with NextHome Lifestyles. I'm curious, have you heard any negative economic rumors that may have been circling the water cooler lately? Something about a looming recession? Or even worse, the possibility of another housing crisis? Well, chances are that you have. It's everywhere in the media these days. So today, it's my goal to provide some clarity about the biggest of these rumors, that a looming recession in 2020 is going to cause another housing crisis as bad as we experienced in 2008. Now, let's first dive into the looming recession and actually take a minute to explore exactly what's going on. In order to have a recession, we first need to be in a booming economy, and currently that's exactly what's been happening. Today, we're actually experiencing the longest economic recovery in modern American history. And because the economy functions in cycles of growth and restrictions, it's no wonder that everyone keeps insisting that a slowdown, also known as a recession, is just on the horizon. And what exactly is a recession? And more importantly, how may it affect the housing market? Well, the definition of a recession, also known as the period of economic slowdown, is merely 2 consecutive quarters of slipping or decreasing growth in our GDP, or gross domestic product. For those of you who may have slept through your high school economics class,
Bueller.
the gross domestic product measures the value of economic activity within a country, which would be the sum of the market values or prices of all final goods and services produced during a period of time. Simply stated, a recession is an economic slowdown that occurs at the end of a period of economic expansion. Now we can better understand why everyone is running around using the R word, because our current economic growth cycle is way overdue, historically speaking, for a slowdown. But what's important to know is that there is a distinct difference between a recession and a housing crisis. Our current economic recovery will and is slowing down, but this does not equate to a housing crisis. A housing crisis occurs when housing prices plummet due to a sharp decrease in demand and affordability, resulting from excessive risk-taking, loose borrowing guidelines, and over-leveraging of housing, leaving many homeowners underwater, unable to sell, or unable to tap into their equity. The last housing crisis we had was in 2008 and was not a result of the recession we experienced. Rather, the housing crisis was the actual cause of the recession in 2008. Looking back at the main reasons likely to be attributed as causing the last recession in 2008, leading economists were polled and they agreed that the top triggers were likely to be number 1, housing crisis, and number 2, the mortgage meltdown. What you have to realize is that times were way different in the years leading up to the last recession. Lending guidelines were incredibly loose and were allowing for the over-leveraging of real estate as well as excessive risk-taking, as many lenders didn't even check a borrower's credit rating, income, or assets. And when the housing bubble burst and home values began to fall, homeowners were unable to get out of their subprime mortgages because they were over-leveraged in their homes. So many were unfortunately faced to sell or worse yet, walk away from their homes. In comparison, today's lending guidelines are very conservative, requiring full credit, income, and asset verification. Added, most home buyers are putting 20% or more down on the homes they're purchasing and have been locking in extremely low interest rates on fixed-rate mortgages. Plus, our demand for housing is much higher as we've continued experiencing population growth far exceeding the growth of our housing supply. These conditions all support a very stable housing market and real estate values. Now, looking towards our looming recession to come, the leading economists recently polled considered that the most likely triggers of any future economic slowdown will most likely be number 1, from a trade war, number 2, a correction in the stock market, number 3, an undefined geopolitical event affecting the world economy. And to provide some more context, in the same poll, a housing market slowdown was actually considered as the 9th most likely trigger to cause a coming recession, which isn't a very serious threat. This is a stark contrast to the conditions from 2008. But more importantly to note, the same economists in the same poll also stated that they actually forecast housing prices, although slowing down, would still appreciate upwards of 6% nationally throughout any pending economic slowdown. What's been overlooked by the current panic is that home values do not necessarily have to decrease during a time of economic slowdown. Rather, home values actually increased in 3 out of the last 5 recessions and decreased by less than 2% in the 4th. When trying to understand the likely effects of any pending economic slowdown, it's most important to look at the most likely cause of that pending slowdown. So, Chicken Little, in terms of a housing crisis, the sky is definitely not falling. More likely than not, the recession coming in 2020 will be but a blip on the radar in home value appreciation. Housing will not be the trigger, and home values will still continue to appreciate. Of course, I'm not suggesting the prices won't ever dip. Even in a balanced housing market, we experience dips in housing prices due to seasonality of inventory levels. But I highly doubt we'll actually experience any sharp declines in home values during the next economic slowdown. So, if you're considering to make a purchase in real estate this year or next, now you have some insight into what to expect. Plus, one key point to note is that during a recession is the time when most Americans pull their money from the stock market and invest into real estate for stability, as typical stock market losses during a recession can equate to as much as 25% loss in value. Well, I hope this information is helpful, and remember, don't panic. Your home is and will always be one of the most financially stable and rewarding investments you can make. Thanks for watching, and please like this video, subscribe, and share. See you soon.